So let's dive in. Please write in, let me know where you're joining from, how you're doing today. I'm joining you from Bangkok this morning. That's where I live right now. It's sunny and hot, as it is just about every day of the year. And when I think of the sun, I think of intuition. Because when I think of intuition, what I see, the visualization that I get, is basically like this big ray of light shining down on us. It's like a connection with everything, with a higher power, with oneness, with God, with everything there is. And when we can tap into this wisdom, we unlock freedom. We unlock light. We unlock ease. And we flow more and more with life. And that's what I want to do today. I want to do all of those things with you. So let's get started. What is intuition? What is intuition? What does it mean to you? Go ahead and write it in, and then I'll share what it means to me. So as you're sharing, I'll tell you, intuition to me is that voice of my higher guidance. It's that knowing that everything is okay, will be okay, has always been okay. It's that deep, deep wisdom that always wants me to expand. It always wants what's in line with my highest good. And it will always be there for me. Sometimes it sounds too good to be true, even for me who teaches this stuff. It's like, can I really always depend on this? And every time I ask that question, I'm reminded that, yeah, I can. Even when it's seemingly silent, there's a lesson in that. Even when I'm not getting clear messages or clear guidance, there's a message in that. For me, that message is to respect where I am, to respect the silence, and to rest. Ooh, and that sometimes is one of the toughest messages our intuition can deliver. Because often when we're asked to go to that place, to respect the silence, it's because we're dealing with something that's really uncomfortable. We're looking at something that we want to fix right now. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel this anger. I don't want to feel this anxiety. I don't want to think about this upcoming meeting. Or, what just happened with my in-laws. That's uncomfortable. But I know when my intuition is silent, the message is to simply sit, to watch. Oh, man, there's so many stories coming up right now. Information is coming up really quickly. So where do we start? We're going to start with my personal story. How did I get into working with intuition? Chris says, I like that. Thanks, Chris. Let's go there together. So I started on this intuitive path by force, I like to say. It was something that I always thought, oh man, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. I wish I could follow my intuition. I wish I could help other people connect inwards and do healing work. But I didn't have the confidence to do it. I didn't think I even had the gift to do it. So instead, I worked super, super hard. I tried to prove myself in every way possible. I got a lot of good feedback on my intellect, so I followed that. I followed that all the way to a PhD in public health. My PhD in public health was terrible. I mean, there were many good parts of it. There are many things that I learned from it. But my overall feeling going through it was strife, anxiety, high levels of anxiety, discomfort, frustration. Man, was I frustrated. And this was not just like a sometimes thing. This was a building and mounting every single day. Everything seemed to be going wrong, from like visa issues to getting to the study site. People were falling down with crazy illnesses like cholera and hepatitis E. There were floods. It was full on. For me personally, it felt like the 10 plagues of Egypt. It was like that for me. And the final plague was when I ended up stuck in bed with chronic nerve pain. I was laid out in bed. I couldn't even bend my head without debilitating pain. So what happened next? I was forced to sit in silence in bed. Sometimes I couldn't even look at my computer without pain. So there I was. There I was, being forced to listen to my intuition, this beautiful voice that I had blocked out for so long, pushing and trying so hard to ignore, to carry on with this PhD work. And it was while in bed that I stumbled upon a course by Jeffrey Allen called Duality. And this was a course on tapping into intuition, and it was also, he taught some lovely energy healing tools. And I remember taking the masterclass for this course. My pain levels went from like a 9 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 in 30 minutes. And I knew I had to take this course. It was this full-on embodied knowing. That's intuition, by the way. When you just know, I have to do this. So I took this course. I was only a week in. The topic was intuition. And I remember saying, okay, universe, I hear you. I will dedicate my life to this. I see the signs. I'm hearing them all come in clearly. I was meant to dedicate my life to a healing path. Just let me get through this PhD. And I promise I will do just that. And from that day forward, with that new perspective, with that new light ahead of me, guiding me, my life completely changed. And it didn't become miraculously easy overnight. It's not like my pain dissolved and never came back immediately. I needed that pain to continue to guide me when I continued to try to get off track, because I had, at this point, had 30 years of learning how to ignore my intuition and follow my intellect. So I was finally on the path. Things became easier. It was like this huge burden was just released from my shoulders. And ever since, I've been following what feels right, what feels the best to me. And it's awesome. It's awesome. I get to teach it to people. I get to work with people one-on-one, and I watch miracles happen every single day in my life and the lives around me. And it's not because of what I'm doing. It's because of what intuition is doing. It's because of the power that lies within every single one of us. I mean, this is a true superpower. Really, really big superpower. So big that not even I understand how big it is. So big that you don't understand how big it is. It's way, way bigger than we know. If we had any idea how big it was, we would just snap our fingers and things would move. We would have full power of conscious creation. We would completely surrender into life, into being, and know that everything was okay. And through our presence, we would change people, we would change the room, we would change the world. That's the power of your intuition. And that's what we're going to explore more today. Because the knowing about this power, it doesn't come through me telling you. It comes through an embodiment, a visceral knowing. It comes through a visceral knowing, and that comes often in steps. It can come in one fell swoop. That's great too. I wished that would happen to me for many years. I really did. I read about stories like of Katie Byron, where she just describes this one point where I believe she said she was sleeping on the floor, like in pure hatred of herself. And all of a sudden, her ego it's almost like it died. It melted away and she began to see the truth. And I remember reading that and being like, oh, life would be so much easier if that happened to me. Why can't that happen to me? And that's because that wasn't my path. My path was to go through it, to continue to go through it, so I can teach people who are also going through it how to reconnect again, even when the going gets tough, especially when the going gets tough. And I want to talk about how intuition comes in for us, because that's something that's super important to understand when we get into this work. So go ahead and write in, how does your intuition speak to you? How does your intuition speak to you? Is it through a knowing? Is it through feelings in your body? Is it through visuals or colors? Maybe you see things at night, when you close your eyes. Maybe you have an inner voice that guides you. How does it come up for you? Thanks for your comment, Chris. Quiet intuition means to sit and listen. Yes, that's a good summary right now. When your intuition is quiet, it means to sit and listen to yourself, to your body sensations, to whatever is coming up, and just observe. Observe the best you can. And if you're having troubles observing without judgment, because that happens to all of us, then call somebody. Pay a coach. Pay a healer. That's what I do. When things are really, really, really hard, I call up a coach. I call up a holistic therapist. I have people hold space for me so I can get clear on whatever it is that's really hard for me to face by myself. And then I do this for other people. Sometimes I do it for the same people that hold space for me. There's no shame in that. In fact, there's liberation in that. How great is it that we can ask for help, that we can get vulnerable with one another, and we can connect? That was a reminder that came in for me this morning before we started this live, that to really deeply connect with someone, you need to get a little bit vulnerable. It's through that vulnerability that we open our hearts and we allow ourselves to connect more deeply. So take a breath and let's go into a bit of a meditation. We're going to do this to calm the nervous system, because when our nervous system is calm, that's when our intuition can come through so clearly. Or rather, it's always coming through, but that's when we can hear it the most clearly, because the other noise is no longer in the way. So let's jump in there and begin breathing into the center of our chests. into the heart of our intuition. You can close your eyes or keep them open. Just begin breathing and settling in. As you breathe, we ask that your breath connect you within. That it begin to disconnect you from the noise and allow you to simply flow with the natural rhythm of life, with a natural rhythm of your body. Keep breathing and notice whatever comes up. Notice if your thoughts are coming up and telling you about all the things you need to do. If you need to, you can write those down. Take a pause and come back. Otherwise, we can thank our minds for everything that they do for us. And just for now, invite them to observe. Thank you, mind, for your logic, your planning, all the ways you keep me safe and organized. Know that you're safe and come watch. Let's watch together as intuition wants to come through today. Continue to breathe into your chest, and we're going to ask, how is your intuition coming through for you right now? Notice. Notice if an image pops up as you breathe there. Notice if simply a knowing arises, an emotion. Notice if a voice begins speaking to you. Or notice if the sensations are coming through your body. All of these are ways that your intuition speaks to you. It's like a sixth sense. A subtle sixth sense that has always been with you. That might have even seemed burdensome or annoying. I know mine did before I understood it better. So let's breathe in to that sixth sense that you've always had and give it some space. Ask how it wants to come in right now. Ask what kind of fresh perspectives it would like to give to you. Ask how you can hear it or see it or experience it more clearly. Keep breathing into the chest. Keep breathing, and if anything came up for you, please write it in. How did you experience it? How did you notice it? Perhaps even share what it said to you. And you're also welcome to write in if you didn't notice anything. Or maybe if you felt something else too strongly. Let us know. What did you experience? And as you write in, I'll tell you about how I misunderstood my intuition for many, many years. See, my strongest intuitive sense is a physical feeling. It's a kinesthetic knowing. It's also a bit of a simple knowing. That often goes hand in hand. When you have really that visceral knowing of things, that embodied physical sensation knowing, there's also just a simple knowing that often comes along with it, and vice versa. When you have the simple knowing, you can often feel things more in your body. Those two senses seem to go hand in hand. And so I would have these physical sensations in my body of things around me, people's feelings, people's thoughts, people's physical pain. And I didn't know what to do with it. It felt terrible. I thought it was mine. I thought there was something that I had to do about it. I thought I had to fix it. But I couldn't fix it. I didn't know how. I was a kid. I was a child. And so eventually, as these things started mounting, I started to shut off my connection with my intuition. I started to shut off my connection with my body. I stopped tapping in and feeling in. I talked a lot, so I didn't have to listen to others because I didn't want to feel what they were feeling. I didn't know it was a gift. It felt like a burden. I didn't know what to do with it. Now I know that there was nothing I had to do with it. But also, as these things came up inside of me, it was triggering my own things. My own stuff was coming up, things that I didn't know how to let go of, things that I didn't know how to simply observe and watch them pass away. So I accumulated all of these feelings, all of these physical feelings and emotions, mine and others, until finally I started seeing a therapist, I think in my mid-20s. Yeah, it must have been in my mid-20s. And she started to help me reconnect with feelings and put names to feelings. I started meditating at a Brahma Kumari center in Copenhagen where I was living at the time. And all of a sudden, I began feeling more and more things in my body. And it no longer felt so scary. It was simply there. And as I developed my intuition over time, I realized, oh, wow. Being able to feel these things can really be a gift, especially as I started working with other people and helping other people on their healing journeys. I could really see how this was a gift. But even so, even when I started doing that, it still felt like a burden sometimes when I could feel things, when I could hear other people's thoughts and judgments about themselves. And then I would judge myself for having those thoughts, not realizing it was their own thoughts. So this just came in so many layers, so many levels. And again, it was that sense that I had the whole time. It was always there with me. Now it's such a blessing. Now I love it because I know really quickly in my own body if something's not good for me, and I can say no. I know when I tap into something and imagine something with my mind, if it's the right path for me, if it's the right decision to take, because I can feel it in my body. I can feel that expansion. I can feel that intuitive yes. And you have this exact same gift, and it comes in differently for all of us. And it's really beautiful once you understand it and accept it for what it is. One thing that I learned when on this intuitive path and beginning to listen to, other healers and other teachers talk about intuition, I remember thinking several years ago, if I could just visualize things, if I could just see someone else's pain in their body instead of feel it in mine, then I wouldn't be so attached to it and it would be different. Or if I could just see people's auras, then I could understand things differently. Then I'd really be at the next level. What I learned through doing that is that I was actually just denying my own abilities. It was like a distraction to not go deeper within myself, trying to follow what somebody else was doing. And once I saw that, I could go deeper within me. I could develop my own abilities even more. And I learned that as I developed my own abilities of feeling and knowing more, the other senses started coming in more clearly as well. So it was through not seeking the additional ways to perceive intuition that they came to me. When I let go of trying things begin to flow in. Isn't that a beautiful analogy for life? Like when we stop trying, things just flow. Things come to us. Sometimes that's hard to accept or wrap our minds around. Like, yeah, but I've got this thing that I've got to fix, you know? But no, it's really always true. It's really always true. The less we try, the less we seek, the more flow we have, the more insight we have, the easier life becomes. The more we can flow in our work and everything that we do. That's the power of reconnecting with your intuition. What did you guys hear in that? What's coming up for you? What's coming up for you? How is your intuition coming through for you? How is it not coming through for you? Right now, let me just guide you through example. Right now I feel a feeling in my chest and a feeling in my throat. I don't know what that means. I know that if I try to figure it out with my brain, I'm not going to figure it out. I'm just going to block it. So what if I could just follow these feelings? And I'm going to follow by breathing and observing. I breathe into my chest. And as I do, it doesn't feel so heavy. It doesn't feel so constricted. And that's not because I went in there with the intention to lighten it up. If I do that, I might actually block it. And that's okay too. Then I can go, oh, look, I'm trying to change this. If I can watch with my awareness through the eyes of a compassionate observer, I allow things to move. So now I move up to my neck. And it feels a little bit like a lump in the throat. Maybe I say, hey, lump in my throat. And just through doing that, it was like, oh, I've been seen. I can let go a little bit. This is the process of seeing our intuition and allowing it to come through. Opening up with curiosity, opening up with play. It's almost like becoming a child again. And just seeing things as they are. And through that, we give those things permission to be. And when we give things permission to be, they move. They're no longer stuck. We're no longer holding on to them. We're setting them free. And I'm being asked to continue this because I still feel like there's something a little bit deeper in my throat now, in the back. So let's see, how can we observe this right now? You want it to come out as a yawn. Sometimes it's boring. It's very simple and it's boring. The process of watching ourselves, to allowing things to come through. Chris says it comes through my body, especially my belly, but then my brain gets in the way, working on somatic feeling. Yeah. Yeah, I love what you say here, Chris. This is really, really common. We feel it in our bodies, and then our brain gets in the way. We want to analyze it. We want to understand it. We want to fix it. We want to know. And that's very human. Very human. We all do this. I do it too. Every single time I reach a new level or a new depth of something, my brain automatically wants to go in there. And the way that I look at that is that my brain is giving me space to sort of rest and digest it without anything happening. It's like it comes in to give me that pause. I can have that awareness, but if I were to move through it too quickly, it might feel really scary. It might overwhelm my nervous system. So my brain comes in with its brakes on to be like, let's stop this. Let's stop this for a minute. And that's okay. It's almost like a dance. It's like a dance. And at the beginning, when we uncover something, there's always going to be resistance. Anxiety blocks things too. Yes, I can relate to this very much as a survivor of generalized anxiety. We start to worry, like, what if this happens? Or we go off into thoughts. Maybe even thoughts that seem totally unrelated, like distractions. And again, that's just giving ourselves space for the divine system within us to work through whatever it needs to work through, to help us move through it without our brain trying to analyze and take over or fix. Because when our brain does that, we do get stuck. And that's okay. That's okay. And so how do we get unstuck? We keep practicing. We keep practicing. One of my favorite tricks to do with intuition is to notice it, like get really clear on something, or just get a clear yes or no, and then treat it like a game. Write it down in the journal. Okay, I just got an intuitive yes, move forward with this. And then maybe our brain comes up and it's like, ooh, but if you do that, ooh, it might ruin this relationship. You might get fired. What about all these bad things that could happen if you follow that? And so now you get to make the choice. You get to make the choice to follow it or not follow it. And you write that down and you stick to it. You stick to either following or not following, and then you write down what happens. And this is such a powerful way to build trust in your intuition. Because when you get those intuitive yeses and you follow them, you realize, oh my gosh, that turned out even better than I could have thought. Not only did my fears not come true, but the opposite happened. Like I used to have this fear that told me if I got too into this work and I grew too much, I would outgrow my husband and it would sort of ruin our family. And when I finally surrendered and said, okay, I know there's something greater guiding me, so I'm just going to go through with this anyway, because intuitively I'm feeling like I need to go there through this healing work and meditation. And when I went there, what happened was I actually felt like a heart opening. And my relationship with my husband became deeper and more loving. And this happened more than once. And every single time I thought it was going to be the end of our relationship at the beginning. It still kind of happens and comes up and throws me every once in a while when I'm asked to go into a deeper space and understand my relationships on a deeper level. I'm first faced with these fears that are like, if you do this, you will be a homewrecker. And it's like, I'm laughing now, but it's really heavy and scary. And if I choose to go through with it anyway, I I realized, man, were those fears wrong? Because I just strengthened the bond and the love and the depth in my family relationship by daring to go there. So good. What about the rest of you? What's coming up right now? No, before we go there, we're going to do an exercise. I'm feeling guided to do an exercise. We're going to do an intuitive yes or no exercise so you can really understand what a clear yes or no feels like. And then you get to play the game yourself. You know, if I follow it, what happens? If I don't follow it, what happens? So let's breathe in to the chest. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open, whatever helps you connect better. Take some deep breaths here. And I want you to imagine you have 2 optional trips coming up. And we're going to check out trip number 1. Trip number 1, you are running late. The traffic is terrible. You get to the airport feeling so worried you're going to miss your flight. You're crazy frustrated. You finally get on the flight. You go to your destination. The weather's terrible. You're cold. You realize you didn't pack well. But you're here now. So you go to the place that you're going to stay, and it is not like the pictures advertised. It's a little stained, a little dirty, and a little stinky. And on this trip, each day you just wake up feeling a little blah, a little bit more down. Your mind is really just thinking about, oh man, this is not where I want to be. Oh man, the weather. Oh man, if only the food were better. Oh man, I wish I would have booked that other place. And now we're going to ask, do you want to go on this trip? What does your intuition say? Do you want to go on this trip? And feel into that. That's like an intuitive no. Notice what your body feels like. Notice what comes up in your head. Any visuals, light, dark, sounds. What does your intuitive no feel like? Okay, now we're going to take up this experience. We're going to crumple it up like a ball of paper. And we're just going to throw it over our shoulder. All gone. Now, I want you to take a couple more centering deep breaths. We're going to imagine going on another trip. In this trip, you're on your way to the airport, and there's even less traffic than you expected. You roll in, you go through security, super easy breezy. You have a nice amount of time before your flight just to walk around, take things in. You board. You're sitting next to some people that just feel nice and light. And you strike up a conversation. And you learn some things that, wow, I didn't expect this. And, you just carry on in this nice, calm, insightful way. You get to where you're going. You get to where you've checked in, into your hotel or your rental, and wow, it just feels so cozy. It's so light. It's so warm and inviting and loving and safe. And you can just snuggle in and feel good. You wake up and every day it's like a new adventure. Every day you're feeling lighter and more expansive, and you're having just these lovely conversations with people. Learning about cultures, learning about foods, learning about all these things. Just completely opening up your perspective and raising your consciousness so you're just seeing life in this new and light way. Now we're going to ask, is this a trip you'd like to go on? Again, notice in your body, notice in your mind. Notice any senses that are coming up. What does your intuitive yes look like? What does it feel like? I want you to type that in. How did those come up for you? What was the difference between your intuitive yes and your intuitive no? And I want you to type these in, not just for me, but for you, because when we type in these experiences, we bring them into the physical world. We embody them even more. We allow them to move through those neural pathways. And we remember them on a deeper level. So how does that intuitive yes and no show up for you? I can tell you how they show up for me. A no feels heavy. It feels like I'm kind of crouching and protecting myself. Yeah, Laurie says, yes is lighter and higher in the chest. Yeah. What do you mean by higher in the chest? When I hear that, I think like my chest kind of naturally lifts and my shoulders go back. It's that expansive openness. Yeah. Okay, good. That's it. That's the way you experience it too. I can tell you another way sometimes yes and no come in for me. When I'm saying something that is true, it can come in sometimes as I see like a little light flying around, or it can come in as goosebumps on my arm. And then it's like, oh yes, what's coming out my mouth is very aligned right now. It's very aligned with my truth. It's very aligned with my intuition. Georgette says, force is a no, flow is a yes. Ooh, I like that a lot. Ooh, yeah, force. Ooh, trying too hard. Yeah. Jen says, love that, Georgette. Oh, and Nicole says, yes equals smile giggly, and no is throat tightness. Yeah, great. You guys are getting really, really good, clear differentiation here. Indy says, no is a tensing of muscles, tightness of the chest, heaviness in the head, and low tone in head. Ooh, so much detail. So good. Yes is opening in chest and top of head, relaxing of muscles, tingling in arms. Wow, this is amazing, guys. This is amazing. So now you have your clear intuitive no's and yeses, and you get to play around with these for the rest of your lives. You get to see what happens when I follow a no and what happens when I follow a yes. And I promise that if you do this, it will build trust in your intuition in a whole new way, because you'll begin to see, oh my gosh, I can really trust this sixth sense that's always been with me. I can really trust these body sensations. These things that are always in me, they've always got my back. And it builds trust in intuition, it builds trust in yourself, it builds trust in life. It's so good. There's one thing that I'm being asked to share with you right now, and that's along the lines of boundaries. Because sometimes when we're asked to follow our intuition, we're asked to put up a boundary that we've never done before that can make us feel really uncomfortable. Or all of a sudden we become aware of where someone is crossing our boundaries. So I want to share with something that my good friend Susanna shared with me. She's a parenting coach, and I believe she heard it from another coach as well. But it's the idea that our boundaries are not just this imaginary line that we've drawn in the sand. Our boundaries are our response to someone crossing that line of what feels right to us. So it's not another person and their actions, it's our reaction to that. It's us saying, this is the boundary. This is my boundary. At least this is what it is right now. And if you continue to put that up consistently, people are going to respect that. And it might change from day to day. I know it changes with my children sometimes. Sometimes my boundary is right here and sometimes it's out here. And I've learned that if I explain that to my children, man, things get a lot easier. My boundaries get crossed a lot less. Because I've made those boundaries my own. And I've made it clear, this is what they are and this is where they are. These are mine. Not just some arbitrary thing that you can choose to cross or not. And that's been really powerful. And I don't know why that wanted to come up so clearly right now after this yes or no, but I'm sure it's to serve you, and I'm sure it's to serve me as well. Because it always is. It's always for everybody. Good stuff. All right, guys. I think that's it. Ooh, Shelby's limitations and boundaries. What's the difference? Really feeling my limits today. That's a good question. I feel like it depends on how you define them. To me, when I see it, I think of limitations as something that are very personal. Like, what are my own perceived limits? You know, how far can I go before it feels okay? And when I think of boundaries, I generally think of someone else involved. Although now that I say that, I suppose it could be my own mind or an inner critic voice. But basically, the boundaries are like, okay, this is what feels good right now. Kind of like limitations. Like, I can go to this point and this feels okay, and any farther it doesn't. And boundaries then are when I define what that is and I share that with another person, or maybe even with a voice inside my head. Like, hey, you're crossing my boundaries today. Voice inside my head. No more. You know, I think I'm going to try that more often. Let's see how that goes. Let me know if that answered your question, Shelby. Okay, I see a heart there. That looks good. Yes, you're so welcome. Indy says thank you. Shelby says thank you. This has been very enlightening and helpful. You're so welcome. I'm so glad. I am so glad, because this work is awesome. This is what I dedicate my life to, because this is what my intuition has shown me is the best for me to dedicate my life to be doing and to be teaching to others. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for your donations. They help Insight Timer and me continue our work and sharing with the world. If you want to find me, you can follow me on Insight Timer. You can Google me. I'm the only Charlotte Tamison out there. Health by Intuition is my handle on everything. I would love to be in contact. I would love it if you reached out to me for anything. Yeah, I love to be there with you guys. You're so welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, thanks guys. Have a wonderful day or night, and I hope to see you back again next time. I believe it'll be next week at the same time. Lots of love.